What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of Stars and Garters. I am Katie Pettit, and today it is Random Fandom Friday, and I have a really. I'm excited that I'm gonna get to do this episode because I didn't know if it was gonna be a thing that I was gonna get to do because, if you know, maybe you don't, but uh, if you do know, I have done two previous episodes on the show Young Justice, DC animated show about sidekicks. I did one review of seasons 1 and 2, and then more recently I did a review of season 3. And in my review of season 3, I mentioned that I really wanted to look at season 4, but I didn't know if I was going to get to because it's not on DVD and I don't have HBO. But a nice little opportunity presented itself because I am doing a little job, and I'm at a different house, and this house does indeed have HBO. So in 2 days, which maybe is a little maybe it's a little faster than I should have watched it, but I did binge the entirety of season 4 of Young Justice, and I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of feelings, and there's a lot to discuss here. My outline that I have for this is 2.5 pages long. About I don't know if the episode's gonna be that long, but we'll see. So let's jump right into it. All right. So first of all, the way they kind of structured this season was a little bit different than the other three, because what they did for this one was they seemed to one thing that I was really glad about was they kind of went from uh well they kind of formatted in the way where they got to focus more on the first members of Young Justice, like the first group, and they got to give them their own little spotlights. Except Wally. It's fine. I'm over it. It's whatever. He's dead. I don't. Whatever. It's fine. So, all of those, I don't know how many, but so like Nightwing, Tigress, Superboy, Miss Martian, and then also Zatanna and Rocket, since they technically were a part of it in the first season, just not like that much. They were there, just not super there. So yeah, they structured it to where they were focusing on the main team more, and they gave each member kind of their own little section of episodes. There were 26 episodes, I think. I shook the whole camera there. There were 26 episodes, I think, and they would break it into like, I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 episodes at a time, and they would focus mainly on one of those people and kind of go like from their perspective, but it was all still like connected to one plot, basically. Um, and I really liked that. I thought, because, like, I think I overall enjoyed the last season. That's what I said, and I'm pretty sure that's still true. But I did say that I missed, kind of getting to see more of the original team, and now get to see more of the original team. So that was pretty great. I didn't actually realize that they were doing it until like after I finished the whole season. I didn't look at it like that, but then I realized that like you could even see by like the titles of the episodes, you could like figure out there were sections of the episodes, and each of those sections focused more on one of the characters. So I really like that. I think that helped out a lot with this season, because there were a few rough spots, but I think that's definitely like one of it definitely helped for my liking of it a lot. So the first few episodes are focusing on Miss Martian and Superboy, because in the last season they got engaged, so now they're gonna go get married, as engaged people do. But they're getting married on Mars, where Miss Martian is from, and they're gonna get married on Earth, so they're gonna do it twice. But Miss Martian and Superboy and Beast Boy go to Mars to get married and do all the stuff there. And Mars is like apparently like a month or 3 months journey from Earth by spaceship. So they are gone from the team from a while. So this it actually So this one doesn't totally set up a lot of the main overarching plot of the season. It's more their own personal like stuff, which was fine, because it was a pretty actually compelling story. But it wasn't like too focused on everything else that was happening. But that's okay because it did what it was doing well. Um, so it mostly focuses on, so obviously Megan or McGann is a Martian, but she's a white Martian. And the thing about Mars, which they explain more in depth here, is that there's kind of like a class system where it's like white Martians are the bottom and they're kind of like the, you know, they're well, they're considered to be like the bottom, and some of the other races don't really like them. Then you have the like green race, which is like the majority, kind of more just there's just the majority basically, and they're pretty like basic. They don't have any stipulations really. And then you have like the royalty, which is the red ones, and then you have like these like magic priests, which is the yellow ones, and that was a whole interesting deal. But so basically, the whole thing that Miss Martian and Superboy, well, not the whole thing, but a lot of what they have to deal with is you see like kind of the classes on Mars because McGann comes from like her dad is green and her mom is white, so she has that to deal with, and all of her siblings except one are green, and that's not great because they end up like somehow all of her siblings that were green except one also grew up to look down on the white Martians, so that's not great for her. And then all of this, like the whole thing, it's not just affecting Megan and Superboy because there's like this. So in the last season, they kind of touched on a little bit, but Miss Martian's brother, uh, I cannot remember his name, but he now calls himself uh Ma'alafa'ak, which I think that's the name of some like Martian beast or something, but he does it for some statement. I can't remember what his name is. But they touched on a little bit on the third season, but he like hates green Martians, and he thinks all green Martians basically are like racist, and so he just wants to wipe out all green Martians, and he thinks that'll solve the problem. So he's a bad guy, and the Martians, like things are getting really bad on Mars with these class systems and everything because the king, who was trying to kind of get rid of the class separation, was murdered. So they have to deal with their wedding, first of all, and then her brother is still trying to make a lot of trouble, and they also have to figure out who murdered the king so that they can try to smooth things out on Mars. So, uh, honestly, that whole story, I thought it was going to be a little like, I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was going to be a little annoying, that kind of story. I thought it might be a little, I don't know, pushy. I don't know. But it actually ended up being really compelling and like actually pretty good. Like I enjoyed it a lot. The whole world of Mars, which is by Martians. Fun fact: Martians call Mars Mars because Martians have the same words and names. Well, mostly names. They have the same names as Earth, but with a comma or that's not right. An apostrophe. McGann, Megan. Like her parents' names are Jan and Maat. Maat is my favorite because it's not Matt. It's not Matt. It's Maat. Um, but anyway, so the whole world of Mars is like actually pretty interesting and like intriguing, and the story was actually very like intriguing and compelling, and it worked, and it was not annoying, which I expected it to be. It was actually pretty nice. So another thing I liked about this chunk of episodes was that Miss Martian and Superboy. So I said in both of my reviews of season 1 and 2, and then in my review of season 3, like Miss Martian was never my favorite character. Not that I didn't like the way she was written or anything. I didn't think she was badly done. She just didn't interest me. Her personality was kind of just not something that I personally enjoyed. Superboy was. I liked his, angry, impulsive guy archetype. That's fun for me. I like that type. Um, but honestly, they're like a really good couple. So seeing their whole relationship be a focus, it was actually like really nice. They're actually a great couple. Like, they go together really well, and there were some really really nice moments that were really well like written and done. Just interactions between them. Like when they're actually getting to prepare for the wedding, despite everything going on, is really nice. And honestly, they're actually like a pretty stable and just solid couple, which is crazy with superheroes. They're actually really solid. Excuse me. I also liked because Beast Boy was there, and he had a lot of time in the third season, and I really liked how what they did with him and how he was done. So it was also nice to see him get another kind of like focus, I guess, and focus more on him. But he had his own little arc because he actually had uh, a very interesting, like the start of a very interesting and very compelling arc because it turns out he is having trouble with so at the end of season 3, Geoforce Brion, he like betrays the team and he kills someone and he like forces them out of his country, and he was one of the outsiders, so he was on Beast Boy's team, and so Beast Boy's actually having a really hard time dealing with all that, and he's like depressed and he can't sleep and he's like hallucinating. He's having like really really bad like mental health stuff. And so he has to go through all that, and you kind of see him. He kind of is like acting like a jerk, but he's also he like misses the outsiders, and he's still thinking about Brion. And eventually, like he doesn't tell anyone, he doesn't ask anyone for help, and he just starts like hallucinating. And it's that part was really really interesting. And I like honestly I liked it. It was just like very it was it just kept you invested, I guess, and it kind of made sense for the character, like because Beast Boy is like really like he's very caring, and so it makes sense that that would really mess him up. And also like they kind of talk more about how like a lot of people have died for Beast Boy because he lost his mom. Queen Bee killed his mom. His like I don't know. I don't know what his relation to her was, but there was this lady named Rita who I guess kind of raised him after his mom she died. He was hanging with this team called the Doom Patrol, and basically they all died. And now Brion betrayed them, so he is going through a lot, and it's very very interesting to see, very intriguing, and just kept you engaged with that story. And so basically how this sort of little arc wraps up is so McGann's brother, which is all I'm gonna call him because I'm not saying that name again. It is annoying. I mean I can't decide if it's annoying or fun to say, but I'm not gonna say that anymore. I'm just gonna call him McGann's brother. But so he has invented, with the help of someone, I'm not sure, I can't remember who, but someone has helped him build this bomb that it has like a virus, and when it blows up, it will release this virus that's gonna kill all the Green Martians and just wipe them all out. So this is obviously a problem. Uh, it would be a problem in general, even if Miss Martian wasn't white. But it's like it still is like ends up being a personal problem because it still could kill McGann because her parents were green and white, so they don't know how it'll affect her. So obviously they have to get rid of this bomb. So he plants it, and it's about to explode and everything. So this arc had a very very intense and pretty great conclusion. Well, not a conclusion. It concluded this arc. Definitely not a conclusion to anything else. But it actually had a pretty great like wrap up of this arc because Superboy. So he's been dealing with. So he doesn't have as much stock in the whole Martian class system that is going on. He's still trying to help. He's still trying to do what he does. But his problem has just been that he's away from Earth's yellow sun. And the big thing about Kryptonians is that they are superhuman because of the yellow sun. Like the yellow sun, like if Superman was on a planet with a different sun, he would be a normal dude. He's probably a little stronger than a normal dude anyway, but he wouldn't be like superhuman. So, and he also wouldn't be invincible, which is also a problem for Superboy because without the yellow sun, Superboy can get hurt and like die and stuff. So, what happens with the bomb is it starts to detonate and nobody knows how to defuse it. So Superboy takes it and he goes under some lava. He goes into like a pit of lava, which he's still to some degree invincible, but he goes under the lava with this bomb and it explodes, but it explodes under the lava, so it doesn't hurt anyone, but it does kill Superboy because they find out that the bomb was laced kryptonite, which is, it's kind of all came together to be very bad for him. He was not as invincible as he usually is because of the yellow sun and then the kryptonite and just like all of that is very bad. And he does end up dying. So that is how that ends. Also, kind of throughout, and this is kind of basically the only other way besides Superboy's death, which obviously contributes to a lot of the rest of the season. But the only other way it was really connected to the overall big plot is that there's been this like group of 3 kids who have been following Miss Martian and Superboy. And you can't really tell at this point anything about them. They're just like watching. You can't tell if they're like good or bad or anything. But they've just been like watching and talking, and they have some sort of plan. They need to do something with Superboy, and that's basically all you know. So, overall, this section was really great. Honestly, there was not really that much to not like about it. Like, it was just really compelling, and it was never boring. It was never too weird. We'll get to too weird in a second, but it was really cool. Like, and that's like I don't even really like Miss Martian that much, but they just did this part so well that it was still really interesting. And Superboy's death, I think, was like it. I mean, obviously sad. Like, it's not a good thing, but it was really good story wise and like writing wise, and it was done really, really well. And like it definitely hit because of like it affected Beast Boy really badly, and obviously Miss Martian because she was like about to get married and all that, so that's not particularly fun. But yeah, this little part was really nice, and I thought it was really great. I thought it just did all the things that the show has always been doing well. Was like this arc, they still did it really well, which is like all the character stuff they've always been super good when they get like just character moments and stuff like that. And then they had a lot of good like I don't know action and kind of that more kind of stuff. But they did all that really well, and honestly I can't think of anything huge that I didn't like about this. Like, yeah, I can't think of it. It was, I think well, I don't know. We'll probably get to that later. But this arc by itself, honestly, was pretty great. So, moving on. So, the death of Superboy kind of transitions into the next section of episodes, which focuses on Artemis, Tigress, and it kind of focuses on like her and then her sister Cheshire, who has been like kind of a villain, kind of like an anti-hero thing throughout the show. So, I really like Tigress. I was really excited to see this, and I've always liked her. Her archetype kind of thing has always been more my style, but yeah, I was excited for her part. So it transitioned really smoothly. It wasn't like an abrupt change in like story, I guess, because it goes right into the team finding out about Connor's death, and they all have to mourn and stuff, and it focuses on Artemis, because obviously she's still kind of like she's better. She's a lot better about Wally, but that's still something that's there, and so now she's lost Connor, and it's like she has to deal with all that basically. So that transitioned really nice, still fitting with what they set up with the previous plot. But the main thing that happens with her is that she is targeted by two assassins from the League of Shadows, which is um the only thing that I've like talked about from the previous season that they've been they've shown up in the previous seasons, but it's like Ra's al Ghul's deal where he kind of operates and stuff. And there've been plenty of run-ins, but mostly with Ra's al Ghul. So, uh, and that made a lot of sense for this to be Artemis or Tigress's thing, because her sister is a shadow or was a shadow. So that it made a lot of sense to me to do that with her. So the thing that happens in this little part is that she has Cheshire, she calls her in to help with her problem with the shadows, because the two assassins that show up and look like they're attacking Artemis, they get caught, and then both of them say that they were trying to get away from the shadows and that they were trying to, like, get out of the shadows and come join the team. And then both of them say that the other one is a mole. So that's, not great and pretty sketchy and could be really dangerous. So that's the main thing with them. And then one of the shadows that one of them is some random girl named Onyx, but the other one is Cassandra, who is Darkseid's daughter? No, Vandal Savage's daughter. So yeah, that's basically the whole thing that's going on there. So Cheshire is called in to help try to see like which one is lying, and also deal with the League of Shadows because she kind of knows more the ins and out of it. And they have them in this little containment facility to try to figure out if they're lying or not. And you get so in the previous season, they're like she was barely introduced. She was there and she did some things, but this character Orphan, she was a part of Tim Drake's little kind of squad, I guess, in season 3. And she didn't speak at all. And she did like a few things, but she was not very important at all. Most of Tim Drake's squad was not very important at all. But the three of them, the three of them that are not Tim Drake get some more time in this part, because so Arrowette and Spoiler are the other two besides Orphan that were on his team, and so they're a little bit involved in like watching. They like originally protected Artemis from the two shadows, so they're like helping watch and make sure that they're not escaping and everything. But Orphan doesn't trust either of them, and she won't leave. Like they have their watches on like a schedule, but Orphan stays there the whole time because she does not want to let the shadows out of her sights. So this another really good thing about this part was that we got to learn a lot about Orphan, which you know it I guess it would have been nice to see all this in the last season, because again, she was this new character, but she didn't really do anything. But also, it wasn't terrible, because in the last season they didn't really try to make us care about her or make her super involved with anything at all. So it wasn't like bad because we were supposed to care for her and she didn't really do or say anything. It was just kind of, she was just there, and she didn't really need to be anything else but there, because there was nothing going on that really mattered to her personally. But now there is something, and we get to learn a lot more about her. So the reason she is connected with the shadows is that we find out that Lady Shiva, who is a very big deal, she's like, if you don't know about her, Batman has called her the greatest martial artist in the world, so there's that. And she's definitely an assassin. She's really, really good at it too. So Cassandra Cain, Orphan, is Lady Shiva's daughter. So she obviously has a lot involved with the League of Shadows, because Lady Shiva is involved. It is Lady Shiva. So That's their whole deal. So eventually, Onyx and Cassandra get taken back by, or, well, everybody gets attacked by a bunch of shadows. Like, they come and they try to get them back. But Lady Shiva, or I think Lady Shiva is there. Somebody is there and they get Orphan. They don't get either of the prisoners, they get Orphan and they take her and they say, give us the two shadows back or we'll kill Orphan and all that good stuff. So that's when we figure out that Orphan is Lady Shiva's daughter. So they go to where the League of Shadows are, and they have like this really nice, like, long action part where they have to fight off the shadows and find Orphan. And so Orphan gets kind of her whole, like, backstory here, which obviously it's like being Lady Shiva's daughter, and so she was like raised as an assassin and all that. So all that is shown, and then it's kind of hit on. I don't know if you would be able to figure it out if you didn't know about her from the comics, but I don't have that perspective, so I wouldn't know. But it made sense to me because I do know from the comics, and they actually tweaked it quite a bit. I think. So the way it works in the comics is that Orphan was sent on her first, like, assassination mission, and she killed the guy, but, like, killing the guy, like, was not, she did not like that feeling at all. So she ran away and eventually joined the Bat family. And so in Young Justice, though, what happens is she's sent to kill Joker, and I don't know if she was sent to kill Joker in the comics. I don't know who the guy that she killed was. I know she didn't kill Joker, but so she's sent to kill Joker, and so at the place where she's supposed to kill Joker, the Bat family is also there trying to, like, stop whatever Joker is doing, and she, so as she is trying to kill Joker, Batgirl gets in the way of her, like, slicing, and she, like, slits or, like, really slices up Batgirl's back, which also changes how Batgirl becomes Orphan, because in the comics Joker shoots her, and not Orphan, Oracle. Joker shoots her and paralyzes her and she becomes Oracle. So apparently in Young Justice it was Orphan who, like, slices her, and that's what puts her in a wheelchair and makes her become Oracle. So, and that's why she joins the Bat family, because she was actually, like, there. So I don't think the changes and stuff bothered me necessarily. They were different, but I think they worked with everything that they're trying to do in the show. I wasn't, yeah, it just didn't bother me. I was like, okay, it's different. Let's see what this is about. So that was her. She got her whole thing, and so eventually, Lady Shiva is like the worst mom. Obviously, she's a very bad mother, and so Orphan and Lady Shiva are fighting, and eventually Orphan wins, and then the way that whole Orphan story ends is that she decides not to kill her mom because the right thing, yada yada, and she messes her mom up, like, really bad, and there's actually there's actually a lot of blood in this scene, but she doesn't kill her necessarily. I mean, I feel like she should have died from blood loss, but you know what? She didn't cut off her head, which was that's what she was about to do. So she didn't do that. So she didn't kill her. At least we didn't see her kill her. So it's all good. And then besides all of that happening, Artemis and Cheshire are still dealing with. Artemis really wants to, like, get Cheshire, like, back with her and be with her, and she wants Cheshire to be with her daughter because Cheshire has a daughter. I feel like I mentioned that, but yes, Cheshire and his name is Will Harper. I don't know. I think that was Red Arrow. Yeah, Red Arrow and Cheshire did have a daughter, so Artemis really wants her to, like, go be with her daughter and get back together again. So they're doing that whole thing. And so at the end, when basically everything is kind of wrapping up, also, I don't know if I said this, but Cassandra was the bad guy the whole time. So Cassandra was never going to defect from the shadows. She actually was trying to lure them to go and have to fight the shadows and all that. So you have at the end you have Onyx and Cheshire, and they're both kind of having to decide how they deal with the shadows. Because they're still like very connected with the shadows, but they don't really want to be, and it's very interesting how they end it because the shadows are actually like super cooperative, which they're not like the it's not the most confusing thing because they're a league and they have their own weird honor thing. I don't know, but so basically they say that they want to kind of be more uh, like genuine with the people in their league and kind of uh, train them not only in like the assassination and everything, but they also kind of want to make them more human and still have them be more human. So what they it's still not great, but it's better than before. So what they offer Cheshire and Onyx to do is they offer them to stay and kind of be rehabilitated without all the assassin stuff, I think. And they offer them to be able to stay and get all that done. So Cheshire, instead of going back with Artemis, she stays with the Shadows to be like rehabilitated in their own special way. So and so does Onyx. So that's how that wraps up. Which uh it made more sense than Cheshire going back to be with her daughter. I mean, it made more sense for Cheshire as a character, not that it made more sense in like actuality. But that is the thing that Cheshire would do because the whole time she is like not wanted to be around her daughter because she's like no. Like she says like in this episodes, she says that she doesn't want to be around her because she thinks she's too much like her dad. And throughout these episodes, we keep seeing flashbacks to Artemis and Cheshire's like childhood, and their dad was terrible. Their dad was like a total jerk because their mom was in jail. And their dad was a supervillain. Well, their mom was a supervillain, that's why she's in jail. But their dad was a supervillain and he wasn't in jail. So he was trying to train them to be supervillains, and he was a total jerk. So she thinks that she's too much like her dad and she doesn't want to be around her daughter so that her daughter doesn't have to go through what she has to go through. So it does make more sense that she would want to at least, you know, do do something to work on herself before actually going back to be her daughter, see her daughter and everything. And right now, her daughter is still being raised by Artemis and her husband, or her ex-husband. I don't even know what their relationship is. I don't even know what it started as, but whatever. He's raising her, and then Artemis is also help raising her. I didn't even look at that. My next bullet point was Cheshire, go freaking see your kid, which I do still feel like that. I know I was just saying it made sense, and it does make sense, but like still, like you just like go see your child. It totally makes sense. This is not on the show's part. This is just me personally saying like go see your kid. It might make the most sense. I don't care. Like go see your child. um, but hey, I get it. It makes sense for her. But yeah, so that part of the story, this little slot, Artemis's little deal. Again, it came from what had happened before. It didn't reveal too much about the overall kind of plot. There were some parts where it would like I think like flash around to little things that might have been like pointing to the plot, but it was mainly just about Artemis. Wasn't super important to like the whole big thing that was going to happen during this season, but again, same thing with Mrs. Martian and Storyboy's Superboy's little part. It was just a really good story and thing for these characters, and it worked really well with everything. It tied into some stuff that had happened from the last season that had been happening from all the seasons. Got to see more about Orphan, and that was nice. Made her an actual character, so that was great. Um, and yeah, overall, really nice. The only thing about it is like I was a little weirded out by the shadows kind of being good, kind of being decent people. Because again, they have their own weird little honor code, and they're not like total psychopaths or like super villains. They're just assassins, which is still not good. But like, it was kind of odd. I was like when did they like this seems a little too good, but it was not a big problem. Just a little, huh? That's interesting. But yeah, overall, another just really nice checking in with the character kind of story. Um, and yeah, that's basically what it was. Okay, now we're moving on to the next part. Um, so it's gonna get weird. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Just buckle up and hang in there. Um, because the next few episodes are about Zatanna. Not Zatanna's fault that this section was so special. um, but I had no problems with Zatanna as a character. I was pretty neutral on her. She was a fun kind of character. She wasn't uh as basic girl as Miss Martian, but she was not as uh alt kind of girl as Artemis, I guess. She was interesting. Not like favorite, but not uh just pretty neutral. And she didn't get that much time. She just still hasn't at this point in the series had that much screen time. She's gotten a few, like she's still there and she's still doing things. She's just not doing that much. But she's getting her whole section of episodes, so this is like, okay, let's get to know her. Um, and she had parts. She was there, and that's one of the good things about this section. We did get to know a little bit more about her, but the rest of this section was crazy, just bonkers, like so like just it was crazy. So basically, their whole problem that they have to deal with is um, so I don't know if I've talked about him because he hasn't been a huge deal. He's like been a big threat, but not like story wise a big deal, except that he's part of the light. So he's as much a big deal as like the separate members because they're not all as themselves big deals, but the fact that they're part of the light makes them a big deal in the story. Anyway, so I'm talking about Clarion the Witch Boy. He has shown up uh I think a good amount of times in the last seasons. But I hate him. He's so annoying. He's hilarious. I mean, he's very fun to hate, but he's kind of the worst. His cat is great. He so his thing is that he's a Lord of Chaos. So uh basically there's like Lords of Chaos and Lords of Order that like keep the universe in balance is the thing. And Clarion is able to be on Earth. He's a Lord of Chaos. He's able to be on Earth because he has Tikal who like anchors him to the mortal plane and everything. His cat, Tikal, is great and I think it's a she. She's great. Like I love the cats, even the evil ones, maybe even more the evil ones, because I mean that's obviously their true purpose. So like great, good for her. Um, but he's a little weirdo, and I don't like him. But he's an okay character. He's not, you know, he's I he's fun to hate. He's a good character, but he's the worst. And that's good that you can make him that hateable. I think that's a good thing. So what's going on with Clarion is that he is, as I said, a part of the light. So the other Lords of Chaos don't like how he's been interacting with the light because they're a group of villains, and the other Lords of Chaos think that he is just like started serving the other villains for their purposes. And they don't like that because they think he should just be, making chaos and doing bad things for his own reasons and not someone else's reasons. So that was interesting because it's like this other group of villains, and they're trying to stop this villain from doing villain things, but not the villain things they want. So that was interesting. Um, an interesting premise, but um, it it got it got dark because um, they didn't they so all the other Lords of Chaos, they kind of come together and they get a mortal body, which for some reason, I guess to make it more creepy, they choose like a 10-year-old adorable little girl, which the things that they do are just so terrifying, and it's worse in this tiny little girl's body. So they get this little girl and they get like a rock kind of creature uh called Flaw to be their mortal plane anchor. Like Tikal is Clarion, this rock monster is their anchor basically. So um the problem is that, first of all, the story gets super crazy dealing with the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos. Um, like, it just gets so out there and so crazy with, like, all this cosmic, I don't even know, like, all this stuff. It also gets so dark, like, just so creepy because so the little girl who is all the other Lords of Chaos calls herself Child because the first human to see her said like, "Child, get out of here" or something, and she was like, "Oh, I like that word," and then she murdered him. And took him apart because she wanted to see what his organs looked like. And that was fun. That was a nice little image that we got to see there. A nice little gift they decided to give us. And she did more things like that. She's basically like a horror movie villain. And it got really dark. She was basically like, she wanted to get Clarion out of the world and so that she could be the new Lord of Chaos that was on the world. And obviously, as a Lord of Chaos, she also wants to just kind of cause destruction. So she wants to get rid of Clarion and also just kill a lot of people, basically. So that's what she does, like, for the majority of this thing. And it's so creepy. It's like, the story that they're doing is, like, confusing, but it's also, like, just deeply uncomfortable the whole time. So that's what they're dealing with. That's what Zatanna is dealing with. So another problem, I guess, with this section is that so Zatanna has taken on? I don't know. She has these three students, she calls them. And uh you know, they're new characters and just like we don't need them. Just use one of the characters you already didn't use from the last season or the last seasons, which I don't think that was a huge problem with the last two seasons. There was some moments where it was like a few characters that they were trying to get us to care about, but they were kind of useless. But that wasn't super frequent. But like they have these three new characters, except so it's 13, who was kind of in the last season. She was just kind of there as Blue Beetle's girlfriend, and she existed. So, and that was fine. But 13, this entirely new dude who I've literally never heard of and has not been in the show at all up to this point, named I I do not remember his name because I did not care about him at all. And then Shazam's sister, uh, Mary something? Mary Bromfield? Yeah, Mary Bromfield. Sometimes goes by Sergeant Marvel, I think. So, yeah, there's that. um, so, and it's just these three characters that are, like, basically from what we know about 13, which is nothing. They're like, you could just say that they're all new characters. And it would have been fine if they were kind of just introduced in this, or if they had a lot more time to be introduced here. But they tried to introduce these characters and get us to care about them, and then have them like be interesting characters in like 6 episodes. Six like 25-minute long episodes. And the thing is, like, there was actually just one episode where they really talked about like their character, like their like struggle, their personality, their like character at all. And there was one episode, and I think it was a really, really bad decision what they did, because they literally, in the span of one episode, each of these characters, they told us what their struggles were, and then they got over it. One episode. All three of them. And I think that was just not good at all. I was like, okay, so apparently they have this problem, so you're just telling us that they have this problem. We haven't even seen them have this problem. And now they are immediately over it. So we don't get to see that part at all. So, like, I don't care about these people. Like, I really just do not care about 13 and this other dude and Mary. Like, Mary has, I like her personality. She's interesting in that way, and her powers are kind of cool. Other than that, why should I care? Like, just, there was no good reason to care. But so that was a big problem. Just three of the main characters in this section I just did not care about at all. But there was Zatanna, and there was her dad, Dr. Fate, or, well, her dad is Zatara, but Zatara is Dr. Fate and has been for a while. So there were those two guys, and they were there, and they, actually, honestly, Zatara, who is, like, an adult, and therefore not what the show is about, like an older adult, like not a young person anymore, I guess. So he's like, and he was the most interesting person there. I feel like that's not how it should be with this show. But he actually, did, like, I feel like he's got the most interesting thing. So, anyway. So with the main plot, also throughout, like, Clarion and the child having to fight each other, you get a ton of, like, Vandal Savage backstory, and you kind of learn how he met Clarion, and a lot more things about Vandal Savage, just, like, literally huge exposition dumps. And I didn't like that either. That was a rough part too, because not only were they so long and kind of boring, they were just animated weird, because they didn't even, like, animate it. They showed, like, stills that kind of moved. It looked like choppy stop motion. And it was just like, it was kind of annoying, and I didn't really understand what they were saying. They were trying to give us some Vandal Savage backstory, which they kind of did in season 3, which I didn't particularly love it in season 3 either. But now they did so much of it, like, just so much backstory, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, I get it. He's an immortal old dude. Like, let's move on with our lives. It was so much, just so much. All of these exposition dumps being given by another new character who I didn't care about. I can't remember his name, but yeah, just some dude who basically existed to give exposition. And he was there, and apparently he's magic. I don't know. I don't care. He did nothing but just talk about Vandal Savage for, like, the whole time, and then ask vague questions. So that part was annoying. another annoying thing was that it, like, didn't really have anything to do with anything else. It was just kind of another big problem, except I guess it had something to do with the light because we were learning about Vandal Savage, but it just didn't have enough to do with the light. It was mostly just like Clarion and the child fighting. And the heroes basically have to help Clarion because even though he's bad, the child is much, much worse and is doing a lot worse things. So, uh, yeah, so that's basically their main problem. I don't really see how it has to do with anything else in the that's going on. Like, it doesn't tell us anything about the kids that are happening. It doesn't have to, like, you know, it doesn't uh have to do with anything like that, except something else that got to me. Like, this section was real rough for me, gonna be honest. But another thing that got to me was that they were trying to throw in a ton of subplots, but they kept flashing like back and forth, and it was really hard to follow each little thing because they would keep going to one to like another, and there were like 3 or 4 that they were juggling around. And some of the plots I was like really interested in, and they just did not get enough time at all. One of these plots that they kind of like just gave a tiny little snippet of time was Beast Boy dealing with Superboy's death, and he's dealing with it like really badly. He's really depressed and he gets addicted to sleeping pills, and he has to deal with all that, and he's like pushing people away, and that is really interesting, but that got like no time because of Clarion and the child and the fact that they were trying to throw it all into a couple of episodes. So, you know, that was kind of rough. So they do end up stopping the child. They kill its anchor, and all of that works out. The one moment that I don't know, caught my attention. I guess I'm not gonna say that I liked it because I didn't like it, but it was interesting. Which is better than the other things it has been. um, was that the child does kill Teakle, which was very sad. And I know it shouldn't be sad, but I like Teakle. I don't like Clarion, but I like Teakle. Uh, Flaw snaps Teakle's neck, so that was fun again. Um, and Teakle dies, and Clarion is actually really sad about it because apparently he says that Teakle like was his best friend and not just his anchor, but like his best friend ever. And I was like, stop trying to make me feel bad for this witch boy. Like, I feel bad for Teakle for getting involved in it. I don't feel bad for you. You are terrible. But I did kind of feel bad for him because they forced me, and they manipulated me. Um, Also, I had a problem with the fact that to get a new anchor, he went and just took a kitten that he found in the wilderness, in the wild, and he made it his new anchor. And I feel like that's a little messed up because, like, that cat is probably gonna die for you, and it didn't ask for that. And if that's what happened to Teakle, then that's really sad because she was just chilling, and then you decided to grab her and make her do all these things. But whatever. He got a new kitten, and he named it Teakle, uh, in memory of the late Teakle, I guess. And it looks exactly like Teakle, but smaller. And that helps them be able to beat the child and whatnot. Then Clarion goes back to being still a bad guy, but he kind of backs off for a minute because of all the craziness that has happened. Um, Alright. Debating whether or not I should admit that I liked this part. But you know what? I've probably said worse things. So there was like at the last moment, I think Clarion gets like stabbed by a tree, which is not a problem for him because barely he's definitely not human. He's just kind of has a human-ish body that means nothing to him, honestly. So he gets like impaled all the way through with a tree, and then so he takes the tree out, and there's like a big hole, and then the baby Teakle goes and like sits inside the hole, and he says, "I feel all warm and fuzzy inside." And I really liked that part. I found it like disturbingly cute because the little baby kitten was just sitting inside there and enjoying itself. But anyway, other than baby Teakle and Teakle in general, honestly, Teakle was like the best part of this. Teakle made me feel the most things that I feel like I was supposed to, and not like confusion and boredom and creeped outness. I don't know, uncomfortableness, discomfort. There you go. Um, so Teakle was great. Love Teakle. Dr. Fate got a nice thing going, or Zatara specifically had a nice deal going because uh, he's inside Dr. Fate, and Dr. Fate is kind of the worst. Well, Dr. Fate is like so Nabu, the Lord of Order, is basically Dr. Fate, and he is the one who kind of takes over the body of whoever wears his helmet. So Nabu and Zatara, who has the helmet, are able to talk to each other, and Nabu's kind of the worst, and he doesn't really want to help anyone or do anything ever, except what he decides when is the right time and all the things. So Zatara is able to talk with him, and you get to learn more about Zatara, which I actually cared about because I knew him from the previous stuff, and he is involved with Zatanna, and like there's a whole deal already going on, so I like that part. Apparently, Zatara's a Christian. That's what they said. I don't know how that works, but if he is great, that's great. We love that. But he gets a whole arc where he talks about like his family and like being a superhero and trying to like be a better dad and all that, and it's nice. It's a nice little moment. And then that part ends nicely. Zatanna convinces Nabu to let the helmet be worn in shifts so one person doesn't have to have their whole life taken away because they are Dr. Fate. So they take shifts in, I think, Zatanna, 13, and that random dude who apparently matters and is Zatanna's student. So they all take shifts wearing the helmet for a week, and that works out nice. Also, Mary, something happens with Mary where she gets mad and gets kicked out, basically. I don't really care again. She's just didn't. I don't really care. She gets really mad and kicks out. Also, this is also very important and actually matters to the story. But during this section, during this arc, we learn that Superboy is actually alive. Which, look, I know it might be annoying, and I know they did his death really well, but I was okay with the way they brought him back. So it turns out that he's not actually dead. I don't think we learn yet where he is, but he's in some sort of other like dimension, realm thing. It just looks different. It's like all crystally and spacey almost, and he's like in negative colors, I guess. Um, and there's this some girl that's with him that's unconscious, and they don't know who she is. So that is set up, and that mattered, and that was good. That was a good part. The rest of this chunk, this Zatanna's whole episodes, was just a lot, and a lot of not great things. Um, I don't, if I choose to rewatch the season, which I probably will if I'm watching through the series, I think I'll just skip over these episodes because it's wild and not in a good way. So yeah, there's that. That's that. I'm just gonna walk away. We're gonna move on to the next section, the section that I have the least points on because it was so boring. Okay, so now we have Aqualads. Oh, don't shake. This computer is being shaky. It's not supposed to. Aqualads section, which obviously has to deal with Atlantis and the underwater kingdom. So at this point, Aqualad is Aquaman. He still is. He was in season 3, still is. All that's happening. And the previous Aquaman is like trying to be a ruler of Atlantis. So, and that's really hard. And there's kind of some troubles going on in Atlantis. People are not agreeing on things in the politics, I guess. So that's basically what's happening. And they get attacked by like Ocean Master. Oh, they get attacked by Ocean Master, and who is apparently Aquaman's brother, which I did not know. But it starts off this whole chain of like, it that's what starts the whole story. I will say, I just found this just so boring. I don't know if it's because I don't like Aqualad or if like just I don't know was boring. Like I didn't Aqualad. He was a well done character to me. In the third season, he kind of fell to the side and got changed in ways that we didn't really get to see. So he kind of, he wasn't great in season 3, and like now he's different in a lot of ways, and I just don't like care anymore. It's not about like me not liking his character type personally, which I don't really, but he was still interesting enough. His stories and stuff were still interesting in like the first and second seasons. But now, like, I don't really know what's happening with him. So I don't know enough about his story to care anymore. So I just was so bored. I don't care about Aquaman either. Don't care about Mera. I don't care about Wind. Uh Wind is uh Wind is there. I don't want to talk about Wind. We're not going to talk about Wind. Wind doesn't exist. Um I don't really care about anybody in the ocean. That didn't really matter to me at all. So, yeah. There's that whole thing. But basically, Ocean Master attacks, and that starts off like this, and it kind of wraps in with where the child was like attacking the Earth, and the child sent like this like thing into the sea that was she was like sending all these little I don't know what they were called. This like just dangerous blow up kill people thingy up at points all around the earth, and she sent one into Atlantis, and so they're having to deal with that. And it starts off like this whole prophecy thing where like apparently there was going to be a big problem, and 3 people were going to come together to stop it, and the best of those 3 was going to be the king. So 3 people came to stop the big thing that was destroying things. One was Mera, one was Ocean Master? I think it was Ocean Master. Was it? Or Aqualad? I can't remember. I don't think it was Aqualad. I can't remember who the second person was. And then a mystery guy. So, basically, they stop the thing, and then they find out who the mystery guy was. So the mystery guy is Arian, which kind of mattered to me. I was kind of intrigued, because through the kind of tedious Vandal Savage backstory that we got, we did hear about Arian. So apparently, Arian was Vandal Savage's grandson? I don't know. Who was also immortal? Who got, that passed on to him. And he, like, challenged Vandal Savage when Vandal Savage wanted to sink Atlantis to make way for something. I don't know. I forgot. And Aaron, I think he was, like, supposed to have died. So, yeah. Arian is the third person, and so obviously everyone's like, okay, prophecy, this guy used to be the king, so obviously he should be the king again. It's great, works out perfectly. Then, we discover that Ocean Master, who is now locked up and everything because he did bad, is a clone. There's so many clones in this show. I mean, there's not a lot, but there are just too many because clones aren't normal, and it's like there's a lot of them, so I don't know. So Ocean Master is a clone with some of the real Ocean Master's memories, I guess. I don't really know. I kind of like my mind kind of pieced out during this part. And Arian is the real Ocean Master in disguise. He's sent there by the light to do something. I forgot. But so, for a reason that I don't know, I don't even think I don't think this is just me my brain piecing out. I think the show didn't actually explain why, but maybe it's because like he's not the one true king. But basically, they're all ready to crown Arion king of Atlantis and everything. Um, and so the crowd is like all chanting, and they give him this like legendary crown that Aqualad went and found with some people, and he puts it on and immediately disintegrates quite graphically. Like layer by layer, he disintegrates, and so like yeah, he dies. He's dead. He's gone. So great, he's dead. He just couldn't wear the crown, I guess, because he wasn't the prophecy. And then they say that so obviously the third guy who wasn't Mirror Arian who helped stop the thing, I'm pretty sure it was Ocean Master. And obviously, he's not going to be the king because, like, one, he's a clone. I don't know if people know that yet, but one, he's a clone, and two, he's a bad guy anyway. So they first are like, we should make Aquaman king of everything, but like Aquaman is like, well, no, because the prophecy said 3 people doing a thing together, and I wasn't part of that. And he's like, but Mira was a part of that, so Mira should be the ruler. Yay! um, so whatever, I don't really care. Good for her, I guess. Whatever. You know, that's how that ended. And I right here, I just said whatever. Like it says, yay, Mira's king, whatever. Oh, right. They held off on it a lot. But they did say like hi King Mira, and I was just like, oh, whatever, just say queen, you weirdos. But yeah, I just like whatever, yay. I don't care. I do not care. I don't really care about any of Atlantis, and I don't care about Mira. So I don't care that Mira is queen, king. I don't care. Ruler of Atlantis. I just do not care. Oh my goodness, I don't care. So yeah, the Aqualad episodes. If I was to rewatch, I would definitely skip those 2 because they were just so boring. I did not care. I was so bored. I was like, whatever, dude. Like, I just don't care. Does not matter to me. Uh, except for the parts when it would try to flash back to the other subplots that were happening. I think Beast Boy was still getting flashback to, and the mystery kids were still kind of going on in the background and doing stuff. So, yeah. I I was still interested in those things because they mattered to the bigger plot and because Beast Boy is interesting. But the whole focus, Aqualad's whole deal, I just did not care. So, next. So, excuse me. The next section is it was going to be interesting for me because the next section was Rocket section. And Rocket very technically was a member of the team in the first season, but she was there for like 2 episodes, so she got like nothing. I don't really know anything about her. Interested, she has cool powers, just not given enough screen time, and she kind of popped up here and there in the next 2 seasons. But I knew she was a part of the original team, so they were trying to give more focus to her, so she did get her own section of episodes. So that was interesting. you know, that was I was intrigued to see if I would end up caring about her because she already existed and I knew about her and I knew some things and I wanted to know more about her. And she was already established as a character, just not much. So I was interested. So yeah, I was like, maybe you can actually make me care about her this time. Because instead of just like not having her there at all. So it starts out in it starts out on Earth and in a very normal setting for once, and it turns out that Rocket has had a kid. They're like around like the kids who were like 15 in the first season are now like around 25, I guess. So yeah, she's married. She has a kid. Her kid is autistic, and she's having trouble like doing things with him and getting him the things that he needs and all that. So she's having trouble with that on Earth, but she can't worry about that because she has to go to a like summit, a sort of meeting summit between like the people of New Genesis, which has been mattered before in the show. Not too much, but they've been there. And then like some other planet I can't remember, but I can't remember like why they called the summit. But I know that it's on some other planet, and I know that there's the Green Lanterns are involved with it, and that's the whole thing. So I was a little confused about that, but I will go ahead and say that this section was this it was alright. You know, it was okay. I did not hate it. I didn't love it. I wouldn't even say I disliked it. I kind of liked it. You know, it was alright. You know, so yeah, I'll tell you that. But the convention wasn't really the main point of story because they end up obviously having other problems. So I think this is where it starts to bring in the Zod family and starts connecting with where Superboy is a little bit more. Um, so uh, Superboy is revealed to be in the Phantom Zone. Uh, he got there because the unconscious girl that he has had with him was one of the one of the mystery kids that had been following him around on Mars. She, as he was like going down with the bomb and he was about to die, she like grabbed him, and she has teleporting powers, and so she grabbed him. She like glitched between where she was going and where she was, and she kind of glitched into the Phantom Zone with Superboy, and that's how he is alive. So we get to find that out around this time, and but connected to what's happening with Rocket and where they are is that this kid named Lorzod, I think, who I do not know who he is, never heard of him. I know Zod, but he's not Zod. He's Lorzod. He's like a kid Zod. Apparently Zod's son. So he is trying to get his parents, Zod and Zod's wife, out of the Phantom Zone, which and he's trying to get the Phantom Zone projector, which is on the planet that the summit is taking place. So they more have to deal with him being on their planet and trying to get the Phantom Zone than they have to deal with like the actual summit. So that was okay. Me not knowing about what the summit was ended up being okay. So he is trying to get the Phantom Zone projector to free his parents. He is teaming up. He's like in cahoots with Darkseid somehow. Darkseid still hasn't done that much. He's just sent people to do things. And then McGann's brother actually is also working with Darkseid, and Darkseid tells him to work with Lorzod. So he's also in on all of this. He's in the bad stuff. Also, Forager is here. Fredbug with two G's is back. And you know, okay. So, his thing, he does help with like, you know, fighting and stuff, but his main thing has nothing to do with the summit or Zod or anything, because Forager meets another bug, a girl bug named Forager. And if you will recall, or if you know the show, bugs can't use pronouns. The species that Forager is, an alien called a bug, can't use pronouns. So, even though I was happy for Forager, he was so fun and I loved him from the last season, I just, if I, like, there was some points where I was like, if I hear Forager one more time, I will walk out of this room and not watch this show. But I obviously wouldn't do that. I'm just saying there was a lot of foragers. Like it's there it was many times the word that forager was said. But it was okay because he was happy. He was doing good. Forager's doing pretty good here. He's great. He's doing great. Good for him. Um so he just helps, you know, fight other than being in love. Um, so there's also character named Orion, who is Darkseid's son, but he's a good guy, and he's part of the summit that's happening. And Rocket doesn't like him because he's Darkseid's son, and he also has like rage issues that are connected to like certain, I don't know, like they're like connected to like he has claustrophobia, he has all these issues that make him like really volatile and stuff, basically. So Rocket is kind of having to learn how to deal with him, and then they all end up having to deal with Zod in the end. They all have to come together to try to stop Zod. But also, in the middle of this, there's this other guy. So the Green Lantern Corps are involved in this thing. So a few Green Lanterns show up. We don't know much about them from this show on its own, but they get their own little side stories, and it's okay. Like, it's, for some reason it wasn't as like annoying because they weren't like a part. I don't know. It just wasn't them being like smaller characters and still trying to make us care about them. It kind of worked for some reason. I'm not sure why. But there's also this like little arc of this character called Eraser. So he, like, we know nothing about him, but I was incredibly intrigued about what the heck he is because I'd never heard about him, never been on this show, mentioned on this show ever. But he gets like a whole episode like half to himself because like apparently he used to be a Red Lantern, which they're all about like rage and their rings are fueled by rage, and he put his Red Lantern away and gave it to this annoying dude called Metron, so it wouldn't get to anyone else. He became a Blue Lantern, which are fueled by hope. But then he runs out of hope, and the Green Lanterns find him and bring him to where the summit's being held. So he goes talk to Metron to get his red ring back because he can't use the blue ring because he doesn't have any hope. And then, as he is talking to Metron, and he's like having to fight Metron because Metron like manipulates him and is just, I don't know, bullying him. I don't know. Um, he's done something to him, and he eventually, Razor, gets both of the rings. He gets the blue ring and the red ring, and he mixes them together to become Colgate Lantern. And he beats Metron and teleports him away to somewhere. So good for him. That had absolutely nothing to do with anything else that was going on, but I was very interested, you know? I was like, okay, this is weird, but I'm willing to roll with it. It's different than the other weird subplots because first of all, it was like finished and introduced very quickly, and it wasn't trying to be long or more important than it was, I guess. And I liked this Razor dude. Like, he's weird. He's super weird, and I liked him. And I love Colgate Lantern. Like, that's awesome. He's I didn't even know you could have two Green Lantern rings. This whole little tiny mini story that he got, I thought it was just dandy. It was enjoyable. It was like hilariously enjoyable because I was like, this is great. This does not have anything to do with anything else that is happening at all, but it's great. I'm here for it. Let's do it. Um so that was nice. I think I enjoyed that part despite it being so random and just nothing else. I think I enjoyed it. So yeah, there's that. But anyway, back to the actual plot that was happening. They do end up. So Zod gets his hands on the Phantom Zone projector, obviously, and they have to try to stop him from opening up the Phantom Zone. And so they all have to come together and fight him and McGann's brother and this other guy who's working with them. They have to fight them, stop him from opening the Phantom Zone projector. He does open the Phantom Zone. He gets the portal ready, and he gets ready to pull his dad out, who, his dad in the Phantom Zone has met Superboy, and Superboy has been affected by the Phantom Zone, and he's forgotten, like, all his Earth, all his memories and everything, and he has gone back to, like, his base programming from when he was, like, a clone, like, from the first season, not really knowing anything about anything, and he's kind of like just a robot. And Zod convinces him to like serve him, basically. So that's what's going on over there. And he tries to get out of the Phantom Zone with Zod, and they almost get out, but before they can actually get out of the Phantom Zone, the projector is destroyed. I can't remember who destroys it, but it explodes and it's gone. You can't use it anymore. So that happens, and yeah, so Zod doesn't get out, and the Phantom Zone protector is destroyed. So that's pretty bad for Lore Zod. And that's how that part wraps up. There's still trouble because Lore Zod is gonna obviously find some other way to open the Phantom Zone, but they deal with that in that little section. That's kind of how that part wraps up. So, oh, I forgot to mention. Another thing that was like oddly enjoyable, despite it not really mattering beyond this little thing, was one of the Green Lanterns. I don't remember his name. Yes, I do. It's Tomar Ray. I can't believe I remember that. But I call him Duck Lantern because he kind of looks like a duck. He's some sort of alien. But basically, what they tell us in the span of about half an episode is that he was in charge of the sector that Krypton, Superman's planet, was in, and he feels guilty for letting it be destroyed. And so they're so while they're fighting Zod, they're fighting like opens up this big thing that like starts. It shoots like it like erupts something basically, and there's like it's very dangerous and it's gonna like destroy the planet. And so Duck Lantern has to keep it under control, and so he's using his lantern to do that. But then he starts getting attacked by Lore Zod, and he's not done making like containing the dangerous fire pillar or whatever. And so he tries to shield himself, but when he starts shielding himself, he can't use enough energy to make the thing containing the fire. And it's not done like rerouting it and making it safe. So he says never again because apparently he's not like going to let another planet die again, and he takes off his shield and lets Lore Zod shoot right through him. Another lovely image, just right through his chest, and he saves that planet, but then obviously he dies because I don't think you can really fix that big of a hole. um, so yeah, and honestly, that was kind of nice. I don't know why I cared about this Duck Lantern, but I guess it might be because it was so not connected to anything else. It was like I don't want it to be like in between, like it's supposed to matter, but it doesn't. Like this wasn't really supposed to be a huge deal, but it did matter in like this little circle thing, this little bubble, and it kind of worked in the bubble, and so I did kind of care about Duck Lantern, and it was sad when he died. So yeah, that was that part as well. But so yeah, that was the end of that little section. I like again, it was okay, you know. I think overall I enjoyed it. Um, it was a little confusing. Oh, I forgot to mention. There were just a lot of things going on, basically. I forgot to mention that Rocket reconciles with Orion, and she realizes, like, all of his problems and how he has to, like, why he's so volatile and stuff, and that helps her see, like, her son in a new way. So that is good for her, and that's a nice moment, and it does kind of make me care about her some more. So that was a mission accomplished. Good job. So overall, this section had a lot of things happening, and a lot of the things actually worked. Maybe something holding me back from liking it more was that they didn't really work in unison, in harmony. They were kind of a little discombobulated. I don't know if that's a word, but a little scattered, I guess. So it was you know, overall, I think I enjoyed it because the parts, all the little separate parts, I enjoyed a lot of them. They just were a little confusing when you tried to put them all together. Um, and now the most mm, the so it's not the section itself that annoys me. But the next section, I guess, was supposed to be Nightwing's. And something that really had upset me throughout the whole rest of the season was that Nightwing wasn't there, and you're focusing on all of the team members, and he's like supposed to be one of the main guys. He's one of the first three that started this whole thing. And he just was not there. Like, sometimes it was almost worse because sometimes they would show him, but he wouldn't speak or do anything. And I was just like, I want to see some Nightwing. Nightwing is one of the biggest reasons that I watch this show. Because Nightwing, besides the comics, is not in a lot of things that do him well. And this show has been when he's there. And he hasn't been there up till this point. And so I guess this is supposed to be Nightwing's section of episodes, but it's not his own. He has the final section of episodes, which means it's the team up section. It's where everyone comes together to fight the main thing that's going wrong. So while he did get a significantly more time to do things, it wasn't totally focused on him, which I know it can't, like, when you're trying to wrap everything up and do the finale, it can't really be, but I really would have liked him to get a lot more time to himself. But I digress, because the next section, the finale section, kind of, was actually, I think it was one of the better ones. It was more enjoyable than the last one. It was not quite, it was like a little tiny bit below like Artemis's section and Miss Martian and Superboy's section. So basically, it's coming together, everything. So they're having to deal with Lord Zod is trying to get Zod out, and Zod wants to enslave the Earth, and so does Lord Zod, and so that's bad, and that's what they're having to deal with. And they're also having to deal with Connor still being alive. So by this point, I believe, we have found out that the mystery kids who are following Connor are from the future, and they have, so if Superboy dies, they were sent to keep Superboy from dying at all costs. Because if Superboy dies, then in their future, Zod would rule. So, and they think that they haven't stopped Superboy from dying, and the one girl who had saved Superboy, they think she's dead too. And so they are trying to fix the fact that Superboy is dead, because that's kind of the whole point that they're there. And they team up with Impulse, Kid Flash, Bart Allen, not Wally. Wally's dead. They team up with Bart Allen, and because he is also a time traveler, he's also from the future. So they think that he can help them, fix the fact that Superboy is dead. So they are off doing that, and we know that that is also happening. So this section starts out with us being reminded that Nightwing exists because we see him apparently. We learned that in his downtime, since I guess even the show is saying he hasn't been as involved in superhero-y stuff, because he's been performing at his old circus where his parents died, Haley Circus, as a trapeze artist, and he's been doing that. So that's nice. And Zatanna, who thinks, or she's basically like, she's seen Superboy and she thinks that he's alive. So she goes to tell Nightwing that she needs a detective to figure out whether or not Superboy is alive. So she goes and gets him, and they start doing the detective stuff. So they connect Impulse, or sorry, Bart. I'm just gonna call him Bart. They connect Bart with the mystery kids, and then they connect the mystery kids with like Zod and like the Phantom Zone and everything. They connect it all, and they basically concur that Connor is alive and he's in the Phantom Zone. So they get everyone. They get the whole team, the whole original team, except for Miss Martian, because they don't want to involve her in case they're wrong, because that would be really bad. Because she's still really sad about her fiance being dead, and they don't want to be wrong and then disappoint her even more. So they go to the Phantom Zone, and so I'm trying to look at my outline. I haven't been looking at it that much. I've kind of just been like scrolling casually because I had it. It was a lot. I just have been thinking about it since I finished it. Anyway, so yeah, we're back on Superboy. We're back. The plot is coming together. The main thing, the main villain, the main stuff is all coming together. We're about to get it all together. So, Superboy is, now that he and Zod and everyone knows that like somebody's out there trying to get them out of the Phantom Zone, they are trying to get out of the Phantom Zone. So, the team, so the Nightwing squad that he has, they get to the Phantom Zone. How they do it, they use a magical bus, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Don't worry about it. They use a magic bus and they get the Phantom Zone. So while they're at the Phantom Zone, Lord Zod has also found a way to get to the Phantom Zone. He has created a boom tube, which is a, don't worry about what that is if you don't know. He gets a boom tube that is able to get into the Phantom Zone. So so there's this whole scene where the team is trying to just like stop the Zods from getting out into the world and getting through the boom tube and all of that, and they're trying to bring Superboy back with them. And so that's nice. It's a really nice action scene there because it's really cool because of how the Phantom Zone works. It's like um, how you interact with everything is like based on like your willpower, and so you can't touch anything unless you have the right kind of willpower. And like Superman can't leave the Phantom Zone because his will has been like tied to the Phantom Zone since he's been like manipulated into serving Zod and all that. So of course they Zod and Lord Zod do end up getting, well, Lord Zod gets Zod and his mom out of the Phantom Zone, and he gets them onto Earth, which is bad. Also, at this point, Miss Martian has heard about the theory that Superboy is alive. She's taken a squad, which includes Black Lightning and Superman, to go and try to find him as well, and the Mystery Kids and Bart. So that's their team. But so Zod and his mom and Lord Zod are out of Phantom Zone and they're on Earth, which is really bad because that means they are now getting their superhuman powers because of the yellow sun. So they are on Earth, and they have like, so all the heroes, hold up. So they're on Earth basically, and Nightwing goes, while his team is in the Phantom Zone, he goes and tries to like stop them from getting any kind of like, trying to stop them from getting all powerful and whatnot. He does not. He almost dies. Basically, everyone almost dies from interacting with the Zods because they're like really powerful. Even Superman gets stabbed by a box of kryptonite, which like if just like being close to kryptonite, like just held up to his face, can like knock him out. Getting stabbed in the chest by kryptonite is really bad. So Superman is down for the count. And Connor is still like, he doesn't know what's going on. And so there's all this stuff happening, and they get to like, I can't remember, I don't know if they named the city, but the Zods get into this big city and they start basically telling everyone, all right, we're here, we're basically going to kill like all of you and then start this thing over so that we can have all like a bunch of Kryptonians and basically have new Krypton is what they're trying to do. Obviously, that's not good. So now, like last two episodes, the heroes have to stop the Zods. And like some other Zods have gotten out of the portal, so that's who they're having to fight for this last thing. So which is good. Focusing on this one thing for the last thing, that was nice. We focused in quite a bit. So it's also just the main team who is fighting them. So Superman is not doing well, and Connor is still technically kind of on Zod's side. Zod tells Superboy to kill Superman, but he doesn't because he still kind of remembers. He still has like fragmented memories of his like life, and the memories of Superman are like really strong, and he can't kill Superman, but he's still like not there. He's still mentally not there. But he finally sees McGann, and McGann gets his brain right back to where it needs to be, and then him and Superman work together to beat Zod and Lord Zod. They send all the Zods except um, Zod's wife gets away, but they send all the Zods back to the Phantom Zone, and Lord Zod gets away in a time machine, which is very bad. So that's how that ends. It was a really great action scene. Nice little wrap up, and that's how that ends basically. So what we have now is we have Lord Zod in a time machine, which is not good. He's probably gonna try to do something. We still have his mom, who I don't really know what his mom's gonna do, but obviously she's a Zod, so it's still bad. Um, and then, the light does still exist. The main antagonist for this series does still exist, so they're still doing something. So there's a lot of stuff that's open, but also some things have been tied together, and the heroes are at least getting a break now. So things have settled down quite a bit. And it actually ends with Miss Martian and Superboy's wedding, because they decide that now he's like alive, and they're currently not facing a huge supervillain threat. They're like, let's do this, let's get on with this. So they get married. That was actually a really nice scene. Basically, like everyone from the show came. The kids who were from the future go back to their time because things are fixed now that Superboy is alive and they've beaten Zod for the moment. Their time is fixed and everything. And Ms. Martian and Superboy get married, and it's just nice, They do cut to some scenes where Darkseid just letting us know that, there are still bad things happening. Just to give us that friendly reminder, they cut to Darkseid scheming some stuff. I got excited. They showed Supergirl. Apparently, Darkseid somehow gotten his hands on Supergirl and made her a bad guy. And that girl Mary from Zatanna's whole thing is apparently bad now. So there's that. But ultimately, it ended with them getting married, and that was nice. So we're gonna leave it on that. All right. Okay. So I will hit on. There were also, like I said, a lot of subplots going on through this. So that I don't know how to really pinpoint them because they were scattered throughout. So the first thing I'll talk about, Beast Boys arc. Again, I was so interested in it, and they did a lot of things really well during Miss Martian and Superboy's part. And then he was just got a bunch of little moments, little short moments, and all the moments were also pretty good. And like all the moments were really nice and really interesting about his depression and his addiction and all of the things and his like grief. Was really great. I do wish that they had ended it with more than a freaking therapy dog. Cause that's how I'm on the red here, I'm gonna be quieter. But that's how they decided to wrap that one up. He's got a therapy dog. It was looking so good. He was like talking to Black Canary. He finally admitted all this stuff, and it was looking like he was about to start talking to people, getting some help, and getting back out there. And there, he's like, "Yeah, I got a therapy dog. I'm doing great." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. That is no. You do not set something so interesting up and then just say, here's a dog. It's over." First of all, Beast Boy could be his own therapy dog. he literally turns into the dog that is his therapy dog. So I'm like, you could just be your therapy dog if you really want it that bad. Just be a therapy dog and therapy yourself. I don't, but that just that one just kind of made me a little bit mad because it was so interesting until you just were like, therapy dog, it's fine. No, 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 no. Anyway, one thing I was kind of wondering was, where did the outsiders go? So Beast Boy, during his story, they keep mentioning the outsiders, and they kind of are showing up to like further his story and show how he's like dealing with all this stuff really badly. But we really don't get to see much of them, which is kind of weird because they were like a really big deal in the third season. It's called Young Justice Outsiders, but now they kind of are like really in the background. And a lot of the characters in the Outsiders who mattered a lot last season like really kind of disappear. So that was a little disappointing. Um I was also sad that Bart, I liked his character. I liked him as Impulse and even as Kid Flash. I was kind of sad that the him being helping the time traveling kids was all that he got. Um, but it's okay. I mean, at least he got something. Some of the other outsiders did not fare as well. Um, Also, throughout, the light, they kept kind of just reminding us that the light and dark side were still a thing and still a big deal. But, like, how so? I was kind of like, are they? Are they though? Cause you, like, they're not really doing much as of right now. It's more focused on like Zod. So that was a little confusing. And then they tried to make a little subplot about Halo, who she was one of the new characters from last season, and her arc was kind of nice. She got a lot of nice moments and nice time, but she just like her whole thing this season was just gross, ick. Next, thank you. Uh, so yeah, those were the subplots thing. Just I wish they would have given more time for these things because a lot of them had some potential and a lot of them needed more explanation, and I wish they could have done that. Just like let it breathe. So like honestly, so much potential, so many really cool things. Just like let it have some time, let it have some space, or just like a lot of these things could like go like Halo's whole thing. Just get it out. Just go with this shoe, or just do I don't know if this works with like the network. I don't know how the technical things work, but make more episodes. I don't know how many, or just make them longer. I don't know how that would work, but you need to. I don't know if it would be like not a thing that you could do, but if you can, like that's what they should have done. Just it needed longer if you were trying to do this many stories, because there were a lot of things, um, that just had a lot of potential here. As for the characters, they're again, they're still really good at getting really good character moments when they have the time to do that. For the characters, it was a good idea to split these episodes into these different characters. I think because it definitely gave you more time to focus on it, and the original team, got enough time. They had some really good arcs there. Um, but just a lot of characters also didn't. But when they did have enough time, it was really good. That was still something they do very, very well. I was really glad that they focused back on the OG team. But like I still do care. You have built it up to where I care about these other characters as well. But also kind of like dropped them a little bit, and I want to see them. Just like yeah, it's like they are really good at like making really great characters. Just like scale it back and just focus and stop adding new people. I do not care about 13. I don't care about Mary. I can't even remember that one guy's name. Just stop it. You have so many great characters. Focus on them. Give them some time, please. Um, as for the technical stuff, I will say that I think like the voice acting is a lot. I think it's actually like a big thing that's kind of keeping me watching the series. It's actually very impressive. It like enhances all of the moments that are good. I feel like it kind of enhances them, so it makes them even better. Um, yeah, it's like it's very impressive. They use a lot of the same voice actors. Like there's still like a big cast, but a lot of them do double duty. But that's actually really cool because sometimes they do it so well I don't even know it's the same person, and sometimes you can kind of tell. But then it's just cool to hear how they do these different voices and characters. So that's actually a very very good part of it. The animation, I still so like I've always liked the look of it. Um, and it still does look that way and it looks cool, but there's like less animation. Again, there were just so many points where it was just stills and I didn't like that. I think it would have even made more sense and the plot would have been made more sense and all those like flashbacks would have been more understandable if they had like animated it. But for some reason they just did like little stills and that weird stop motion like thing and it was kind of I just didn't like it. It was not it made it kind of hard to follow. I also will say, not that this really kind of doesn't matter at all, but the theme song is way better than it has been in the first season's theme song was pretty great. The second season literally just cut off all of the first season theme song except for like one little tiny little thingy, little note thing. I don't know, melody. I don't know what it's called. They just like cut off all of it and made it like 2 seconds long. The third season, it like took a whole different vibe with it, but it was still like really short and it was okay. I don't really care. This season, they kind of made it a lot similar. It sounded a lot similar to the first season, but they kind of made it a little more like intense, I guess, and actiony and like sounded bigger. And they brought it back to the full version. And it was like the sequence, the animated thing about it was better. Okay, I've talked a lot about this. I just had so many thoughts. So let's just see. Let's see the pros. The characters are great. I love these characters. The characters are the reason I watch the show. They are awesome. Uh, the whole, like, well, not the whole, but most of the OG team is great. You have some awesome newer characters. Bart is great. I am, like, you've got great characters. There are so many great characters. A lot of the storylines are very intriguing, very engaging. Um, like Zod's whole thing was pretty cool. You had Beast Boy's whole thing, which is great. And the light is still a big deal. And I think overall, it's like a good idea. And like you have a lot of intriguing storylines. The action is still pretty good. I wish there was so much more of it. But that's just me personally. It's still pretty good. I just wish there was a lot more of it. Okay. So the cons. They just need to slow down. They just need to chill out a little bit because the pacing was real chunky. It was so split between so many different things, and they just need to just take it back. Just take it back a notch. Chill out. Um, there were so many subplots. It was kind of hard to follow and very hard to care about each one of them. They just like Zata and so yeah, just like drop some of them is what I would just like. Some of them didn't even need to be there. Just like drop some of them because they just didn't matter to the plot at all. Zatanna's plot was so creepy and so weird and just so uncomfortable, and I did not like it at all. And Aqualad was boring. Um, and then the like, just such an annoying con to even have. But there was like more woke stuff. There was a little bit last season. There was more this season. It was so annoying. It was just like it's less ignorable than last season. It's still not crazy, I guess. It was basically like Halo's whole thing. Halo's whole plot was just like woke and gross, and it was stupid. And yeah, so that was just annoying. Like, I'll just like I don't even. It was dumb. It was stupid. So all of that, so much, so many words being said about this season. I just want to see if they could pull it together. I don't know if a season 5 is happening. They've left a lot of things open, so it seems like they wanted it to happen. I don't know if, like, realistically it will. I would love to see if they can pull them together, because there's just so much potential, and the good moments are just so good. Like, they do some things so well, but there's a lot of other things they're trying to do, and it's not working, and they need to stop, and they need to do what they're really good at. And they need to work with these things that like have all that potential. And they need to just kind of stick with those. So they just I want to see if they can pull them together. Be I would want I want to see a season 5 because I just want to see them. I think if the season 5 was like this season, that I would not want another one. But if they would do a season 5 and they would pull themselves together, I would love to see that. I would really, really love to see that. So yeah, I really would want them to pull that off. So that's gonna be it. I think I can end it there. Okay, so I do have a question that I thought about. It's gonna be a different question than I usually do. It's kind of deep. It's not really. It's just it's a different kind of question. But I want to know that, like, maybe from what you've heard me say about this show, you'll understand the question more. But like, do you think that a show with like really great elements, or like great characters, for example, or some like really great elements, but like like a really messy, just like a lot of messy spots, messy plot, maybe stuff like that. Do you think a show like that is worth saving? Do you think it's worth rebuilding, or do you think just drop it and be glad for the good days? That's my question. Like, follow, subscribe, share, all those things. I will stop talking now. Thank you so much for listening to this whole thing. Don't listen. I hope you didn't listen to this all in one sitting. I'm so sorry. I talked a really long time, but I just had so many thoughts. The show is so interesting. Check it out. Watch seasons 1 and 2 for sure. Maybe stop there if you want to. If you're interested enough, go on. Just check out the show. It's really, really interesting. A lot of good things about it. But yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for sitting through this, and I will talk to you next time.